I never thought I'd see the day when someone would build 28 condos on land that legally belonged to me, but that's exactly what happened. And when they refused to listen, I decided to teach them a lesson that would echo through every home meeting in the state. It started with a letter. A small, official-looking envelope slipped under my door one Thursday morning. Inside was a notice of property development. According to the document, construction was set to begin on Parcel 14B, with the approval of the local homeowners association. I almost laughed when I read it. Parcel 14B was mine. I'd inherited it from my father, a 12.4 acres of prime land that bordered the new residential district on the east side of town. Dad had bought it decades ago, long before the Ho even existed. He'd always said, "Son, never let anyone bully you out of what's rightfully yours." I kept that promise until that letter made it clear someone was trying. At first, I assumed it was a clerical mistake. I called the number listed on the notice, expecting a polite conversation. Instead, I got attitude. "This land has been approved for community housing," said a woman who introduced herself as Deborah, the Ho president. "Approved by who?" I asked. "By us," she replied confidently. "We've been planning this project for months. The paperwork is already in motion." I told her calmly that she was building on private property, my property. But she only laughed and said, "If you had an issue, you should have spoken up at the zoning hearings." Zoning hearings I was never even notified about. That was my first red flag. The next morning, I drove out to my land. What I saw made my stomach turn. Heavy machinery everywhere, cement mixers, cranes, surveyors marking boundaries that cut right through my fields. Men in bright vests were setting up foundations. And there it was, a big blue banner fluttering in the wind. Future site of Maple Grove Condominiums, a proudly managed by Maple Ridge Ho. My jaw tightened. I walked straight to the site foreman and asked who gave permission to build here. He shrugged and said, "The Ho signed all the permits." When I showed him my deed papers, he hesitated but said the order came from higher up. I went home furious. By the next week, the frames of the first condos were already up, 28 units planned, according to the sign. It felt like watching strangers steal a piece of my father's legacy in broad daylight. I hired a lawyer immediately, but things only got worse. The Ho filed for an emergency injunction claiming I was interfering with an approved development. They even accused me of trespassing on my own land. The arrogance was unbelievable. That's when I realized this wasn't just incompetence, it was corruption. Someone inside city planning must have forged the zoning documents to fast-track the Ho's project. My lawyer suggested we fight it in court, but I had a better idea. See, I own a demolition company, Gopang Earthworks. We handle major contracts all over the state. Bridges, old factories, stadiums, you name it. My father started it, and I turned it into one of the top demolition firms in the region. So when people try to build something on my land without asking a broken bar, well, I have ways to fix that. Before doing anything drastic, I gave them one last chance. I sent a certified notice to the Ho board demanding immediate cessation of construction and removal of all structures within 7 days. The deadline came and went, not a word. So, on the 8th day, my demolition crew showed up. It was dawn when we rolled out. 6 trucks, 2 excavators, and a flatbed carrying a wrecking ball. I stood at the edge of my land as the sun rose, painting the unfinished condos gold. A few workers were already on site, looking confused as my convoy pulled in. The foreman ran up to me, panic in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" he shouted. "Reclaiming my property," I said calmly, holding up the deed and the legal notice. He tried to call Deborah. I told him to go ahead. I'd been waiting for her. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, a white SUV screeched to a stop beside the site. Out stepped Deborah herself, clipboard in hand, her face red with fury. "You can't do this!" she screamed. "Oh, I can," I said, handing her a copy of the land title. "And I will." She looked at it, then at me. Her confidence faltered for the first time. "This must be a mistake," she stammered. "No mistake," I said. "You built 28 condos on private property without permission. You had your week to move them. Time's up." Then I turned to my crew and nodded. Engines roared. Steel met concrete. The first wall came down like thunder. Dust exploded into the morning sky as beams cracked and windows shattered. Workers scattered, shouting. Deborah stood frozen, helpless, watching months of her project crumble in minutes. By noon, half the structures were gone. By sunset, only piles of debris remained. I made sure every last concrete block was off my land. Of course, the Ho tried to sue me afterward, claiming property damage worth millions. But when the court reviewed the evidence, their case collapsed instantly. The deed was in my name. The zoning permits they'd used were falsified. The city launched an investigation. Within a month, Deborah and 2 council members were arrested for fraud and conspiracy. I didn't stop there. I countersued for illegal land encroachment, emotional distress, and lost income from the months I couldn't use my property. The jury sided with me. The Ho was ordered to pay every cent of cleanup costs, legal fees, and damages. The best part? The land is now officially zoned for commercial use. And guess what I built there? A demolition training facility dedicated to my father. Every morning, my crew practices on mock structures built to resemble those same condos. I even kept one of the original Maple Grove condominium signs mounted right above the entrance as a reminder. Don't build where you don't belong. A few months later, Deborah tried to apologize. She sent a letter saying she didn't know about the fake permit, say that she was just following developer advice. I didn't respond. I'd learned that people like her only respect consequences, not conscience. The irony is, the Ho dissolved soon after. Their reputation was in ruins. Members quit, and homeowners sued the board for mismanagement. The city auctioned off what little assets they had left, and I bought their old office building just for the satisfaction of it. Sometimes, when I pass by the training yard and see my crew leveling structures, I think about how easily people forget boundaries are both legal and moral. They assume ownership means power, but real ownership comes with history, with blood and memory. My father fought hard for that land, and I wasn't going to let a group of greedy paper pushers erase that. The world might call it revenge. I call it justice, poetic, dusty, and loud. And if you ever find yourself driving past the east side of town, you'll see the sign Earthworks, home of the condos that never were. That's my victory monument, proof that sometimes, the right way to rebuild is to tear it all down first.